Okay, today we're going to talk about three things, mainly percentages and how they relate to, percentages are related to fractions, and percentages are also related to decimals. But decimals and fractions are related to each other. So we have like a three-way circle going on here. Let's do an example of how this circle might interact with each other. So let's say that I got a test lately, 75%. Well, percent always means out of 100. So that's the same thing as saying 75 out of 100, which if you simplify, that's the same as 3/4, equal to that. But this I could convert to a decimal. If I go 75 divided by 100, that's the same as moving the decimal place over 2 places. And so it's the same as 0.75. That's the same thing as saying 75 over 100. I always was taught you put the 1 down for decimal place, you put a line, you put 2 zeros to get the fraction. And then that means that 0.75 is the same as 75%. Okay, and if I look here, it looks like I did it backwards. I indeed should have said that if I'm going to compare it to my example, this should be decimals. Oh, decimals. And this one here was my fractions. So let's do a couple examples of converting back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to change 80% to a fraction. Well, 80% of a fraction, that's easy enough. I can just come along here, change it to a fraction. Percent is out of 100, so that's 80 out of 100, which is the same as 8 out of 10, which is simplified to 4/5. If I change this to percent, well, I know that this is the same as saying 20 out of 100, which is equal to 20%. If I'm going to change this to a decimal, I can say that it's, I know it's out of 100, so it's saying 0.08, move the decimal place over 2 places. And then finally, we're going to calculate an actual percentage. Well, if I want 45% of 2,000 of, this here is a special word of, that means multiply in mathematics. So to do it, I'm going to change this to a decimal. So 0.45 multiplied by 2,000. If I do that quick calculation here, my calculator is hiding, and let's do that. I'm going to say 0.45 times 2,000. I end up with 900 is how many kilograms is 45% of 2,000. All right, let's try another example here. Okay, so if I consider this one now, after price increase of, oh, here's another example. I thought there was another one. Okay, so now if I want to say a car costing $400 is reduced in price by 10%. So this is the original amount of the car cost, $400. This is 100%. It's reduced by 10%. So my new price is going to actually be 90%. Because that's what it's been reduced by. So in order to do this, I think about, well, if I'm going to say I am have 400 is my 100%, I'm going to multiply that times 90%. And when I do that, if I take my handy dandy calculator here, I can just pull the calculator down, I think, here, pull the calculator down. And if I do, clear that, 0.9 times 400, you get 360. So it will cost 360 if the price reduced by 10%. Another way to think of this, 10% is 40 of 400 is 40. 400 minus 40 is 360. But this idea of thinking about what this percentage is will be helpful as we go through these problems. If we look at the next one now, oh, come here. Okay, a price increase of 10% of a television set cost this. What was the price before the increase? So after price increase of 10%, this is what it costs. So this cost here is not 100%. This cost is 110% of the original cost. So if I want to find the original cost, I took 110, which is 1.1, and I multiplied it by what the original cost was. And when I multiplied those two, I had to get 286. So to solve that, I divide by 1.1, divide by 1.1, and I get C is equal, using the calculator, to 286 divided by 1.1, and my original cost of the TV set is equal to $260. Okay, we'll do one more here. It says the average attendance at a Parma C football club game was fell by 7% in 2009. If 230 fewer people went to the matches in 2009, how many went in 2008? So this number here, we have to recognize that this is 7%. That's the fewer. So I know that if I take my 7% and I multiply it by the attendance A, I end up with this, because that is 7%. And so if I want to find the attendance before that, I divide both sides by 0.07, 0.07, and I get 2030 divide 0.07. Oh. And I get, it says that attendance equals to 2,9,0,0. That's what this number here means. Move it over 1, 2, 3, 4 places. 4 places that way. And that is how many people went to the game.